Most people go their entire lives answering to a name that don't even belong to them. They pay debts that really ain't even theirs, and it's like they fight battles in the system that was never designed for them to win in the first place. Now, what if I told you the real game, it doesn't even begin until you correct your status? Like, I don't want you to think this is about conspiracy, it's not about politics, this is legit about just law. You see, more specifically, this is about how this legal system actually sees you versus who you really are. See, most people just walk around thinking that they're free, but in the eyes of the system, under the government, they're just another commercial entity that's tied to a corporate name in all caps. All right, so if you ever looked at your court paperwork, your ID, your bank accounts, your birth certificate, and you see your name in all capital letters, like you're already being treated like government property, like a commercial entity. Till you correct that, your rights don't truly exist in their system. This video actually might be the most important thing that you hear all year. My name is Amir Samael. People call me Amir Law. For the past 8 years, I've been helping people reclaim their private status, their private rights, stop unlawful court cases, protect their rights using real law that we call exclusive equity, not legal loopholes or tricks or anything like that. I legitimately help people reclaim their rights so that they can stop government agencies from exceeding their constitutional authority. I've educated tens of thousands of people how the school system sees you, the courts, and really even the things that most attorneys will just never teach you by design. So in this video, I'm going to break down what status correction truly means, not just the paperwork, but the mindset, the mistakes to avoid, and how the system just mislabels you, misidentifies you by default. It's the design of the system. So by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what it takes to stop living under the wrong name and start moving like someone who truly understands who they are and how to protect themselves and their rights. All right, so before we can talk about correcting your status though, we need to talk about how you got mislabeled in the first place. So let's talk about how the system creates a legal fiction or a commercial entity that's tied to the all caps name at birth. Now, as soon as you're born, your parents, what they do, they sign the paperwork to get a birth certificate. That's where it all begins, right there. That's actually you giving legal title to your child over to the system, over to the government. And then from that point on, you use that social security number, that birth certificate for government assistance. And then you teach your kid, this is what you need to go on in life. And then they do the same thing and the cycle repeats and you're forever a debt slave. When you use that birth certificate name, that commercial entity, that's the difference between you, the living man and woman, and the corporate entity. But they're fusing y'all together. The objective is to actually separate yourself at all times. So you start to understand more of your remedies when these government agencies are exceeding their constitutional authority. So if you never correct your status or make that separation, then that's how most people just go on in life, contracting with the different agencies, giving up your rights, just unknowingly. Like every time you sign a piece of paper, you are saying, hey, you can just have authority over me, you can do what you want, I'm this corporate entity, I'm not a living man or woman. Now, the consequences of continuing to operate like that, what we call a public U.S. citizen instead of a private American or a private citizen, you continue to be a debt slave, you continue to have the same issues that you have now, instead of being able to solve these issues yourself. Well, let's talk about lawyers. Right now, because you don't know how the system operates, you gotta hire a lawyer, not even understanding that they study a law that doesn't favor you and your private rights. And a lot of times what they do, just drain your bank account and then say, no more money, can't help you. See, all this is like showing up to life with the wrong player selected. Like, you're not even in control. So now that you know how you've been misidentified, how they mislabeled you, let's talk about the two systems that you're stuck between and you know why this public system is really just stacked up against you. Let's start with the difference between public rights and private rights. So public rights are, let's just keep it simple, when you are a criminal, you're out on the run, you're wanted, versus private rights are you're property is protected, your family is protected, your wealth is protected. Nothing can be taken away from you without civilian due process. All your information is private. Public rights are bound and granted by statutes and codes, what I like to call the house rules. House rules are a manipulation of what? The original rules. We all know this, right? So the private rights are granted to it. Well, I don't say granted to us, but they are protected by the original rules, which is Constitution of 1776. Right now, you don't know anything about civilian due process. You just know due process. Well, due process defaults to military due process, and that's all we've ever known. Perfect example. If you have ever went to jail before you saw a judge, that is military due process. You should be seeing a judge before you go into jail. Nobody's going to teach you that by design. They don't even teach you there's a difference between civilian due process and military due process. They just say due process. And if you don't know the difference between private rights, public rights, military due process, civilian due process, then the system is just going to automatically assume that you're a public citizen with public rights. And that's why you'll default to military due process, which is all we ever know. It's time to switch and start thinking about civilian due process. So correcting your status isn't just about paperwork. It's about position. It's about mindset. It's about power to control your outcome. See, status governs remedy. So if you have a public status, then you're going to have public remedies, which obviously don't favor you. But if you have a private status, then you have private remedies, which protect your private rights, your private assets, your private wealth, your private future, and private kids. And I can go on and on and on and on. Status correction is a rebuttal or a challenge of a presumption that lies against you under the system. It's not a form that you buy online or you Google online. No, if you're a private citizen, then you should be living by the original Constitution. Then that means you live within the Republic. That means you have private values, morals. That means you live a private life. You live life a certain way that you need to express. But if all you know is living a life a public way, then that's all you can express. See, that's why it's all about mindset before anything else, really. It's about declaring who you are in the eyes of the law and showing, that you know how to stand on it. It's about controlling the jurisdiction that you're in. You're not begging for your rights. You are affirming the ones that already exist. That's what's going on. They know you have rights, but they know you don't know your rights. And see, here's the thing. There's a lot of people out there that don't understand really private versus public, because codes and statutes, like I said before, that is the house rules, the manipulation of the original Constitution. That's public. So you got people, secure party creditor, using, the UCC codes. You got some people in consumer law using the United States codes and thinking, they're private. Like consumer and private, that's an oxymoron. Yeah, it's not possible. You cannot just go file a UCC1, non-UCC, and just think you're free now through some secure party creditor process. That's not the way it works. And in fact, a lot of times that gets people locked up, especially when they're putting liens on judges. It's not a good idea. You actually want the judge to become an advocate for you, like a friend of yours. You can only do that if you know that you're a private citizen with private rights, with a private trust, private assets, private, and you express exclusive equity jurisprudence. That's how you make the whole court system an advocate for you. All of this is why status correction has to be followed with the proper language and actions and processes and mindset. Once you understand that, then the whole world opens up. A whole new world opens up. You start to see things differently. So why does any of this matter? Because without correcting your status, then everything else falls apart. That's the first part of your foundation. There's really 3 core pillars that I educate people in my system. It's been built to be repeatable and effective and pretty easygoing. It's the rights and remedy roadmap, where we focus on status correction, private trust, and controlling the jurisdiction that you're in. We got other information that we get into as well, but those are the three core pillars of your foundation to living a private life. If you are ready to take your power back, ready to go through life with confidence when it comes to protecting yourself, protecting your family in the eyes of the law, then we got a class that's coming up. I want you to go to matisseacademy.com and make sure you sign up, send your private registration and everything. See you on the inside. I mean, because can we really afford to keep living life in this hamster wheel? They tell us ignorance of the law is no excuse. I'll see